the Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MILE.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الصلاة والسلام على خير الأنبياء والمرسلين. صبحكم الله بالخير جميعا. Good morning everybody. Tasnee story is something that I really talk about it without any presentation, without any guiding slides, because it's a story of life. And today I'm going to take you through like 30 years of history in less than 30 minutes. So I don't know how fair is that. I remember last year in one of our own leadership session, two of the divisions stories, we spoke to our audiences for about 8 hours in total. So I spoke about the petrochemical division, and at that time Dr. Talal Shah spoke about our titanium dioxide divisions, and we did not really cover everything we want. You had to really summarize a lot. So we think that it is something that we learn a lot from it ourselves, and we feel that there is also some good learning ground for some others as well. As I mentioned earlier, I put it together in a way where I'm going to talk about like 3 phases of history in Tasnee, starting from 1985 all the way to 2015. And the 3 phases is the founding and early years, and also the changes that took place in between 1995 and 2005, and the operational growth that has taken place. And we also going to highlight a little bit on where we go from here and what is our plans. The National Industrialization Company was established in 1985 as the first joint stock company that fully owned by the private sector. And the company pursued the path of industrialization as one of the best options for diversification of the economy, based on and boosting of the overall growth of the Saudi Arabia. At that time, it was led by the late Dr. Mahsoud Jalal, who was a professor in the universities, and he was an economist, and he wrote a lot of things about the economy, but I may say something that may offend somebody, but he was at the end of the day academic, so I think this is something that we could really use that to learn something about certain practical experience and knowledges. During that time, the paid-up capital was only 300 million Saudi riyals, participated in packaging company, small carton company, inspection and quality with the TUV Germany, operation maintenance services, participated in truck axles, and got into the first titanium dioxide business, industrial waste treatment, glass bottling, and because of what was going on in these companies, they had to increase the capitalization to really support some of these companies, because the way it was going was almost like some sort of a personal favorite, a gentleman who really wants to build an industry in Dammam or Riyadh or something like this would come to Tasnee and say, well, look, I have this idea and I would like to do it, and if you want to be part of it or you want to support, and the answer is yes, okay, we will go for 5% or we'll go for 10%, and this is how it was done. So a huge list of businesses until 1994. The company was involved in almost 44 investment, and none of it actually, except maybe 1 or 2, has any percentage of ownership or any control higher than 10%. The real change, we can say it took place in Tasnee in 1995. There was, first of all, a structural change for Tasnee when Prince Walid bin Talal acquired about 30% of the company from the stock market. And he started working on developing his industrial arm, because the way it was going with the Prince Walid, that once he got into a sector, he would just acquire something that is, of smaller value and start working on bringing some resources. And so he started changing, or there was a change in the board of directors, there was a change in the executive management, tapping into something like close to about 10 years as well of industrial history in Saudi Arabia by SABIC and the industry around us. So that was the driving force. Dr. Muaid Al-Qurtas, Engineer Mubarak Al-Khafra, and a group of people who really been having good industrial background have joined the company. Now, this group, when they join the company or they start working on restructuring, they have restructure of the business and by creating some sort of a very clear strategies, concentrating on two main strategies. One is focusing the business, and focusing the business by merging, divesting, and trying to really determine core businesses that we are all going to put all our effort into these businesses and grow them if they were related of any of these affiliates, or divested. However, as I mentioned earlier, because of also the relations that have been going on, as you know, culturally, there was a statement that was kept very important, is the divesting of these businesses in an orderly manner. So the idea was not just to really divest it out, and maybe cause some of the people who really been, introducing it to Tasnee just to really face some issues and some trouble. So it has been going, and it's still, by the way, we have not really completed the whole exercise more than 28 years ago. And concentrating on certain sectors. One of the key sectors and an important decisions and policy have taken place at that time. That is the government of Saudi Arabia since in 1995 allowed private sector to enter into the basic petrochemical industry. Up until that time, it was only government-owned companies, and it was only SABIC at that time because there was nobody but SABIC was doing the petrochemical industry. And due to the fact that it's a very major competitive advantage with the feedstock, it's really a core feedstock and resources for Saudi Arabia. It was only very natural for people to look into this to be one of the most important areas that we can develop our industry and develop our capability as a company. So we started applying for petrochemical project feedstock allocations. It was at the hand of in the hands of Aramco at that time. And, though policy was not very clear, it was SABIC only for years. They actually never gone back to Aramco to ask for the feed except when they are ready to open the valve. So they give a phone call and say, we'll open the valve, we are ready to start the project. And of course, these days are gone now. So we were the first people who really go on and apply for feedstock. So there was a little bit not clear policy or standards, but the only thing that was very clear that nobody would be given any different treatment than any of the government companies, and that was really standardized by the declaration itself. So we have got an allocation for gas feedstock, and followed by applying to a land in the largest petrochemical complex in the world, which is Jubail Industrial City at the west coast, the east coast of Saudi Arabia. We get the land there, and we start working on our first petrochemical project. I did not put any financial numbers because I think it will be something that I'm going to show at the end, but the company at that time, to really put together the equity for that project, it was like 2 billion real project. And with financial support in Saudi Arabia, you will be able to really put on your own 25% as the equity. And the company really did not have anything, has a very sort of shaky reputation with all the banks because all the assets and investments that this company is running at that time are doing really very good. So it was very difficult for the company to really do anything in collecting equity on its own. Maximum we were able to collect was like 100 million real out of the 500. So we will only be able to take, like 20% of the 25% of the equity. But that was not exactly what we are looking for. We want to be in the petrochemical industry. We don't want to continue the same strategy that Tasnee at that time used to be. Okay, we will accept 5% in an investment and we will go, it will be a good return. So it was very important for the company to really work very hard on trying to get some sort of an equity or equity support where we'll be able to own a reasonable and substantial ownership in this business, so we will be able to really control it. And all of these things have been really discussed up front, so it wasn't something that just happened as we go along. We knew that we had a problem, we knew that we had going to have some difficulties, and therefore, again, what's also interesting in the business in Saudi Arabia is that the relation matters a lot, And because of this relation, because of the knowledge of the individual, one gentleman in one of the Saudi local banks, he one time said, I'm going to put my neck and I'm going to lend you 150 million Saudi riyal. Okay, out of the 500, now we have got something like 50% in total. We will need another 50%. So we put together a plan that we will go and invite Saudi Arabian and regional investors. And we made sure that we will sell them the shares in this company, but without going beyond the 51% where we can have the control, especially for the operation, for the marketing, for everything, because this is how the vision that we want to be an operator of a petrochemical project. We happened that we both came from SABIC, Dr. Muayyad, and the chairman, and the vice chairman, and the CEO, and myself. So we know what we want to look like at that time. So it was very important to really put these things together. We managed to really collect the 49%, and we definitely, as a company who's newly formed, I remember me and my CEO at that time, we made a trip to international trips. We visited the UK, we visited Germany, we visited Japan, we visited Korea, trying to look for a partner. And I call it the kicking and the bigging trip, because we've been kicked out for maybe 2 offices. We were met one time by a company in the UK in the lobby, just by the reception. The guy said, well, look, we're not interested, thank you very much. It was really very tough to really go through this. And alhamdulillah, again, this is also something that whatever you do, whatever you work on, it has to be with you. The blessing of God is really very important. If you don't have it, maybe sometimes you can do a lot of work, but it's not going to be. A German company who really according to them, as they later on came and told, that they just got out of re-strategizing meetings with their board, and they were asked to look for opportunities in the Middle East. And he said, here you guys are knocking the door, okay? You seem to know at least what you are doing, but from other capabilities, maybe not. But what we were asking for was even beyond the imagination for a company like this. We were saying that we want to produce 450,000 tons. These guys, the highest plant for them was 200,000 tons. So they were not able to really comprehend how can you, not knowing or doesn't have any business on your own, you're going to create everything from scratch and you're going to start everything, and yet you're asking for a very high capacity, 2 lines, but it's all about how you put together your plans to be able to establish yourself in the market. The opportunities that we receive from the feedstock supplier is an opportunities that we don't want to miss. And if you miss it, you're going to lose. Also in the petrochemical, as well as anything else, economy of scales matters a lot. So, well, I'm still in the first, but anyway, I told you it's all. But anyway, so we managed, alhamdulillah, to really get it together, put it together, and we managed also to convince even the foreign partner, a European company called Loyendale Bassel, that we will be the people who are at least operating the units and marketing the product and growing it. On the other hand, there was one of the key businesses for Tasnee, which was the titanium dioxide. That was, as I mentioned earlier, one of the companies that we started with about 25% ownership, and there was an objective to grow this business. So there was some issues with the foreign partner. It was an American company, so we worked with our local, it was in Yanbu here in Saudi Arabia, to really buy out the partner. So the 4 partners came down to 3, so our ownership grew to about 33%. Then in 2003, the local Saudi company, who's a gentleman today, he's the major shareholders of Tasnee, we swapped his share in that titanium dioxide business, and we grew as Tasnee to own about 66%, and he was given shares in Tasnee with that. Business will go through all these moves, but if you will see that during these 10 years, there was a lot of merging, there was a lot of divesting, and there was a lot of entering into large businesses. Because of the time constraints, I will have just to really run very quickly through it. And you might see that still some of the small downstream businesses are still there, because as I said, we have certain limitations regarding the how do we want to divest certain businesses, and also there was some relation with some of our current businesses. So by 2004, or what I call the end of our change arena, we have started up our first petrochemical complex in Jubail, Saudi Arabia. We start distributing our product. We start having our full operation, fully integrated in one site. And in the meantime, also we have been awarded some additional feedstock, so the next phase started. In addition that we own 66% of Tasnee. So the overall high-level picture of Tasnee start appearing that, okay, those are the 2 key businesses of Tasnee. They were the highest revenue, they were the highest production, and they were the highest areas that would require the management concentration and so on. So from there, the company start working on how it's going to grow this and make it fully a business line. In this period, as I said, we start building our own experience, harvesting some of the investment, which is really due to the advantages that we have in Saudi Arabia. And we work on sizing down and moving out some of those downstreams. In 2007, titanium dioxide business this is also another leap jump for Tasnee and for Crystal, because Crystal was, just to rank it, was almost number 17 worldwide in the titanium dioxide. And we used to produce something like 150 to 170,000 tons in Yangon. But we went ahead and acquired Lloydale Inorganic Titanium Dioxide business, which grew our capabilities to about 750,000 tons. So we acquired 5 times our size, and we jumped from being, a little bit close to 20 to the second largest producer of the titanium dioxide, and we're still up to today. Then in 2008, we also started up our second petrochemical project, $2.6 billion. Now you see the numbers are totally changing, and we are talking about totally billions of dollars, not anymore hundreds of millions of riyals. So this is again how did the moves between 2005. We continued growing the businesses, we continued building up on the capabilities of Tasnee and growing the major businesses that we have. Crystal, when they acquired Lloydale Inorganic, they acquired 8 different production sites worldwide. They've been growing, they've been operating all their life in Yangon, Saudi Arabia. Now they became owner of a plant in France, in UK, 2 plants in the United States, 1 plant in Brazil. And they were the whole owner of this, and they were supposed to operate it. So the challenge of really a bunch of Saudis, a bunch of Arabs who come and lead all these activities was really big. Today, Crystal all consolidated in totality worldwide in a Crystal Global, and even 1 year ago, we removed the word global, it's a Crystal, and that's it. So it's all one company with full operation and full activities. Then we just continued with our activities. I know that there's a lot of details, but I think the time is a major issue here. So where are we today? We are a company that erects, manage, operate our own petrochemical, chemicals, plastic engineering, and metal projects to provide industrial services and market our product through 5 major sectors: the petrochemical, the chemicals, and metal sectors, diversified sector, and service. And honestly, when you look at the first 2 today, from a revenue point of view, they are 90% of Tasnee's. Others are really, we call them supporting. We call them some of the people who are really familiar with feedstock in Saudi Arabia. There is a whole thrust from the government on employment. And definitely, petrochemicals and chemicals are capital-intensified projects. Downstream is where is the laborers where. So we have really used this also to give us the edge over many of the petrochemical companies, that we were the only company who came like a backward. The Sabex and all others, they were just coming from the petrochemical, and they were not going down to the downstream. Us being in the downstream industry gave us really capabilities to be able to take on a lot of downstreams and support the employment. Finally, this is where we are, this is how we look. And these are the major sectors and major plants that we have. These are the products that we are producing today as the basic chemicals and basic petrochemicals. And this is today's vision, is to be a leader in our industries and keen on responsibility towards our stakeholders and society at large, and with the mission of achieving profitable and sustainable growth through the development of the best business practices. Now the whole story is here. Just easily in 2002, the revenue of Tasnee was 250 million Saudi riyal. In 2011, it was 20 billion Saudi riyal. So we were 100-fold in something like 8 to 9 years. And this is our asset growth. So finally, we believe in talking about the leaderships and talking about the subject here, we think the attributors to our success are really focusing toward the goal. Knowledge and skills, it was very important. Attainable challenges and competency. Utilizing of resources and strong teams by really going to new partners and others. And vision, inspirations, and driving to strength businesses and ambitions. As I said, I can really spend the whole day talking about it or even longer because it's something I lived myself and I'm very proud of it. And I want to thank the people for these opportunities and very happy to answer any question.
Saleh, thank you very much.
So you guys have said what I don't think so. How do you compete with Saleh as the bigger company? It's competing, in the stock market. So anything like that for us,
Yes, we have the same advantages on the feedstock. We are located in the same region, in Jubail, and we're almost going to enjoy the same advantages. We're going to use the financial capabilities in Saudi Arabia. So we want to really create certain niche, and for us was going to be, it's also some of the advantage that we came from Saleh. So we also know some of the areas that we think they should improve, and we capitalize on this. And therefore, in our polypropylene, we brought a different technology. Because we're in the commodity, you hardly can find major differentiations in technology. It's a commodity, is a commodity. Use it for film, use it for raffia, it's almost the same. However, certain advantages in the processing and in the downstream manufacturing will give you a little bit of an edge. Besides, the question was at that time, okay, we go to the customer of Sabit today and we tell them we're going to produce polypropylene. He said, what technology or what product? Well, the same as Sabit. So why you are coming to me? Why should I take from you? Although there was a huge need for a competitor in our region, in our Saudi Arabia market especially. So we came to be the competitor who really created actually a totally different business mind. One day, and I have to say it because I have the right, because I'm Sabit, one day, they were the only one, and they will dictate to you how much you can take and how much price they have, and some of the user here for some of the old Sabit product they can do. So we try to work on certain things, and alhamdulillah, and between the services, between some of the product advantages, we're able to really get our right. Besides, we are in the commodity business. So in commodity business, the market is there, and the demand is there, and it's going to continue there. So thank you very much for that.
The Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MILE.